During his primetime news conference to mark his first 100 days in office, U.S. President Barack Obama said he was pleased with his administration's progress so far, but not satisfied. The U.S. president was also candid about the scope of the problems he's having to deal with on a daily basis. To discuss the Obama administration, we're joined by Solon Simmons. Mr. Simmons is an assistant professor at George Mason University. It was really interesting, the candid moments when that reporter said, Mr. President, what has surprised you? What has enchanted you? What has humbled you about the presidency thus far? I thought some telling moments there.
It really was, Marci, and I think that this shows us what a different president we have, whatever people think about his policies, he's extremely thoughtful and introspective, and he's transparent. He's willing to show us those moments that we only can imagine in the Oval Office. And we saw there, what most struck me with that, it was really a funny moment, actually, and what struck me there was what we learned about him being a bit of a transformative figure. We knew that he came in wanting to be that kind of figure, but the line about an ocean liner versus a speedboat, if you think about what that means, it says, I'm taking this country in a totally different direction. It's going to take me a long time, and it might even take me a second term, but we're going to get there. And we also learned something else. He has a name for it now. If we had the New Deal with FDR and the New Frontier with John F. Kennedy, we now have a new foundation for a new economy. And I think that might be catchy enough to label what he's up to. He gave us that in Georgetown as well, but he came back with it. And on this 100 days, maybe we're ready to accept it. So let's watch out and see if that's the new name that we move forward with.
He also continually thanked the American people for the patience so far because, of course, these are very, very tough times. But on that note, because you mentioned it too, he talked a lot about the future. Is he looking too much ahead and not being enough in the present?
Well, I wouldn't say that exactly, and so because when we also saw him talking about how many different challenges he confronted. He said, look, if you could take the auto industries off the table and just left me with 2 wars, a pandemic flu, a depression, and so on. I mean, these things really hit you with how much is going on. And other people ask questions about secrecy laws and why things hadn't been changed. And you get a sense that this is one man with a group of people around him trying to do a massive job, and he wants to take his time. He just doesn't want to let other people make these decisions. He wants to make them himself, and so things are going to have to work through. He's very deliberate and very careful. So I think that he has his eye on the future while being very much in the present.
He took the time to reach out to the GOP. He was, of course, asked about Arlen Specter leaving, making his way over to the Democratic side. But he also said, while that is wonderful, Mr. Specter will add a lot to the Democrats and his voice on health care and other issues. He made the point that, they've been reaching out to John McCain and other Republicans, and this whole issue of unity, that the GOP, whether they get the numbers in the Senate or not, is still going to be at the table.
That's right. I love that moment on bipartisanship, that conversation, because he came to Washington, we remember, to change the tone, and there hasn't been a lot of tone change. And so people have been blaming him, and he had an interesting explanation of what he thought about bipartisanship. He said, look, I'm willing to talk with you, I'm willing to respect you, but if your idea, and he was talking to Mitch McConnell in particular, the Senate leader, if you're not willing to come over to my side, if you expect that we talk and I accept 100% of your ideas that were discredited in the last historic election, then that's not going to work, and I don't think it's good politics for you. So a very interesting moment where we got a sense of how he's thinking about these issues and how he's thinking about reaching out to the other side and across the aisle.
Always a pleasure to talk to you, Mr. Simmons. Join us again soon.
Okay, I sure will. Thank you.